At 2:47 a.m. I got a blurry wedding selfie from my wife, standing next to my coworker, outside a Vegas chapel. Her message was cruel, humiliating, and completely unexpected. But what happened after that moment spiraled into something no one could have predicted. My name's Evan. I'm 34. And at 2:47 a.m. on a random Tuesday, my marriage detonated via text message. The sender? My wife of 5 years, Linda. The message? It's a blurry selfie from Vegas. Her in a white mini dress standing next to my coworker, yes, my actual coworker, William. Both grinning like drunk idiots. Behind them? A tacky neon chapel. The text read, "Just married William. Been sleeping with him for 8 months. You're pathetic, by the way. Your limp D***CK energy made this so easy. Enjoy your sad little life." I read it once. Then again. Stared at it like it was a weird ad. My brain refused to compute. Then something inside me snapped. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I replied with one word, cool. Then I got to work. See, Linda thought she was clever. She thought she dropped a nuclear bomb and I'd crumble. But Linda had one fatal flaw: she sucked at finances. Everything was in my name. The house. The joint bank accounts. The credit cards. Even her cards? Just authorized users on mine. By 3:15 a.m. I'd canceled every card she had access to, changed every password she knew, removed her from every account, and called a 24-hour locksmith. It cost me $300. Worth every penny. I had the locks changed, the garage code updated, and even had my home security system reset. Took screenshots of everything. Recorded timestamps. Documented as if my life depended on it. At 5 a.m. I crawled back into bed and slept like a baby. At 8 a.m. I woke up to pounding on my front door. 2 cops. One older, bored-looking. One younger, trying not to smirk. "Sir," the older one said, "we got a call about a domestic issue. Your wife claims you locked her out of her home." I handed him my phone. Timestamp text. Wedding photo. That woman is no longer my wife. She married someone else in Nevada 5 hours ago. The older cop raised an eyebrow. The younger one lost the battle and let out a snort. They radioed her. I could hear her shrieking through the speaker, "He's stealing my things." The officer asked, "Did you touch any of her stuff?" "No, sir. Her clothes are boxed in the garage. She can pick them up anytime." "House deed? In my name. Bought before marriage. Credit cards. All mine." She was an authorized user. "Not anymore." He nodded. "Ma'am," he said into his radio, "this sounds like a legal issue. We can't force him to let you in. You'll need to go through a lawyer." Cue the banshee scream from the other end. The officers gave me a polite nod and walked away, clearly enjoying their morning drama dose. I stood there at the door, still barefoot, adrenaline fading. And then I smiled. Because the game had just started and I wasn't playing to win. I was playing to finish her. The thing about narcissists is they always underestimate the people they hurt. I expected Linda to go silent, to wallow in her honeymoon hangover, maybe post a few cringe pics with William like they were some tragic power couple. Nope. She came back. 4 days later. Unannounced. Midday. Hair messy. Mascara smudged. No ring on her finger. She knocked. This time, no cops, just her. Alone. Broken? Maybe. Or maybe just cornered. I opened the door halfway. "Evan," she said, voice trembling. "I need my stuff." I nodded. "It's in the garage. Labeled by room. I boxed it all up the night you eloped." She blinked. "You seriously boxed up my entire life?" I tilted my head. "Wasn't your life anymore, remember?" She tried to fake tears. "I made a mistake. William, he's not who I thought he was. It was the alcohol, the excitement, Vegas got in my head." I let her ramble. Cry. Apologize. Beg. Then I handed her a clipboard. "What's this?" "Inventory list. Sign off on every box before you leave. And no, you can't come inside. Not until we have lawyers involved." "You're serious?" she gasped. I smiled. "Deadly." She took the clipboard with shaking hands and trudged to the garage. I watched her unpack and repack her whole life, sweaty and miserable in her designer shoes, as she slowly realized her little Vegas stunt hadn't just cost her a marriage, it cost her everything. When she reached the bottom of the last box and pulled out a single pink toothbrush, she broke. "You were supposed to fight for me," she whispered. I looked her dead in the eyes. "I did. For years. You just didn't notice." After she left, I called HR at my job. William worked in another department, but we shared projects now and then. I'd kept things quiet. Professional. But now? Time to open the vault. I sent an anonymous tip to HR with a burner email attaching screenshots from Linda's text and the Vegas wedding photo. Mentioned it was highly inappropriate considering William had been her direct contact for freelance work she'd done for our company last year. Conflict of interest. Undisclosed relationship. Potential workplace misconduct. I didn't lie. I just let the truth do its thing. By Friday, William was on administrative leave. By Monday, voluntary resignation. He went from corner office to unemployment faster than Linda could say it was just a mistake. I wasn't done. I filed for divorce. Not just any divorce, a fault-based filing. on grounds of infidelity and abandonment. Nevada or not, their elopement gave me every weapon I needed. Linda tried to text me, call me, and even email my mom. I ignored everyone. The only person who got a response was her lawyer. And that response? 25 pages of evidence. Timestamped texts. Photos. Bank statements. All wrapped in a neat bow and filed with the county. My house. My accounts. My pension. And soon? My freedom. On the day of the preliminary divorce hearing, Linda walked into court like she was the wronged one. Full makeup. Designer dress. Heels she clearly hadn't broken in. I showed up in a navy suit, no emotion, no theatrics. She'd filed a response to my fault-based divorce with a hilarious counterclaim, emotional neglect, and marital coercion. That's right. She married my coworker in Vegas and then claimed I emotionally coerced her. Into what? Fraud? Ms. Lee, my lawyer, barely concealed her smirk. We entered mediation first. Linda refused to settle. She wanted spousal support, SBU sales support, because she claimed she had given up her career for our marriage. Ms. Lee calmly slid a printout across the table. Linda worked part-time as a freelance graphic designer under 1099 while living rent-free, driving a car her husband paid for with health insurance through his job. The mediator nodded. That's not quite the same as giving up a career. Linda turned red. She kept trying to drag William into it. William promised to help. He said. The mediator cut her off. William is not a party to this divorce. Let's stay focused. Back in court, her attorney tried to push for a 50-50 split. The judge, God bless this man, tilted his glasses and said, "Didn't you just marry someone else?" While still legally married. Her lawyer coughed. Linda looked like she wanted to disappear. Then came the piece de resistance. Ms. Lee presented a copy of the prenup Linda signed 5 years ago. A prenup she forgot existed. Linda's jaw dropped. The judge read it aloud. In the event of infidelity or abandonment, the guilty party forfeits all claims to joint property acquired during the marriage. Linda lunged across the table. That's not fair. I was manipulated into signing that. The judge looked unmoved. You were represented by counsel. You signed voluntarily. There's a video. And not only did you cheat, you legally married someone else while still married to Mr. Jensen. Linda sat back in stunned silence. The gavel came down. Temporary ruling. I keep the house. She gets none of the retirement accounts. No alimony. We move forward to finalize asset division, but everything's leaning in my favor. She stormed out of court. Her heels clicked like gunshots. And me? I drove home in silence, pulled into my garage, and finally exhaled. I was winning. But I still had one more move left. I started looking into civil suits. See, William may have resigned from the company, but his involvement in Linda's freelance work? That was a real legal mess. She has done several small contracts for our company. Contracts he approved. Undisclosed conflict of interest? Company policy violation? Enough to cause damage? Possibly. So I made a call to a corporate lawyer I knew from college. Explained the situation. Sent her documents. She called me back within a day. This might not just be grounds for HR complaints. This could open a door for misappropriation of company resources. Will it hit them? I asked. Hard. Good. Let's add some professional consequences to their personal circus. 3 weeks after court, Linda was back in my driveway. But this time, she didn't knock. She just sat there. In her beat-up Honda Civic. Parked sideways like she owned the street. Windows down. Hair in a bun. No makeup. And for once, no performance. She didn't look like a runaway bride anymore. She looked like someone who'd realized the escape route she picked came with no return ticket. I didn't go outside. I just watched from my kitchen window while she stared at the front door. After 15 minutes, she drove off. 2 hours later, her lawyer emailed mine with a single sentence. Client is now open to settlement. Funny how that works. Turns out William dumped her. Yup. The guy she ditched me for, Vegas Chapel, and all bailed. Once his job was gone, his reputation tanked, and the corporate lawyer I'd looped in started asking real questions about vendor favoritism. William ghosted her faster than a bad Tinder date. Linda was left with zero income, no housing, and according to her sister, a GoFundMe she tried to start for single-woman divorce recovery. It made $43. The prenup ensured she couldn't touch my assets. No alimony. No retirement slice. And since she'd married William while still legally married to me, she couldn't even go after me for emotional damage. The judge laughed her claims out of the courtroom. Meanwhile, I closed on refinancing the house under just my name. Bought a new couch. Repainted the master bedroom. It wasn't our bedroom anymore. It was mine. I got a call from HR. William's internal misconduct case? Still active. Turns out one of his side projects involved budget allocations he approved without oversight. And Linda's freelance invoices? Part of that web. The company wanted a full audit. They asked me to provide every document I turned into my lawyer. I sent them in one email. Subject, misconduct evidence, full archive. Attached are 43 pages of annotated screenshots, emails, and financial records. 2 weeks later, I got another update. They were pursuing fraud charges. Linda might not face jail time. But William? Very real possibility. And me? I just secured a promotion. Apparently, the higher-ups appreciated how professionally I navigated an impossible situation. Translation: I didn't air dirty laundry. I documented. I waited. I struck. Linda's final message came via email. It wasn't cruel. Or bitter. Just tired. I didn't know who I was without you. I thought freedom meant escape. I was wrong. You deserve better. I hope you find it. I stared at it for a long time. Then deleted it. No reply. Because I wasn't the same man who let her guilt me into forgiving little betrayals until they became full-blown disasters. I was done being nice just to avoid conflict. I was done letting someone light matches and hand me the hose. Yeah? I let people burn their own bridges. And I don't send water. Final hearing day. 2 signatures. That's all that stood between me and legal freedom. Linda sat across from me, shoulders slumped, chewing on the cap of a cheap pen like it was the only thing keeping her together. She didn't wear the red lipstick anymore. No designer shoes. No fake tan. Just sweatpants, a hoodie, and eyes that had cried too much in too little time. Her lawyer looked exhausted. Mine looked smug. The judge entered, confirmed the property was already refinanced under my name, confirmed the prenup enforcement had been upheld, and asked one question. Are both parties prepared to sign the final dissolution agreement? Linda hesitated. 1 beat. 2. Then she picked up the pen. Signed. No ceremony. No drama. Just a soft scratch on the paper. Then I signed. 1 line. Done. My hand didn't shake. We stood. The judge offered a quiet good luck to both of you and left the room. As I turned to walk out, Linda spoke. Do you still hate me? I paused. Looked her in the eyes. No, I said. I just finally love myself more. And I walked out without looking back. That night, I didn't throw a party. I didn't go out. I sat on the porch with a beer, looked up at the sky, and just breathed. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't show up with fireworks or grand gestures. It whispers. And I finally heard it. A few days later, I got coffee with a friend, Maya, someone I'd worked with years ago. She'd heard the story through mutuals. She didn't press for details. Just smiled and said, "You look like a man who dodged a cannonball." We talked for hours. No flirting. No pressure. Just a real conversation with someone who didn't wear masks. It reminded me of what connection should feel like. Not survival. Not secrets. Just light. I joined a gym. Started lifting again. Redesigned the living room. Started a side project I'd been putting off for years. And for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't building around someone else's needs. I was building me. 1 piece at a time. It had been 3 months since the divorce. 3 whole months of uninterrupted peace. My place was cleaner. Lighter. No more tension in the walls. No more walking on eggshells. The echo of slammed doors and silent treatments had finally faded. I was sleeping better. Working better. Hell, I was even cooking again, real meals, not just frozen junk or takeout. Even Pepper, the neighbor's grumpy cat who'd never liked Linda, started hanging out by my porch. That was how I knew I'd achieved inner peace. Then, on a random Thursday night, I got a knock. Not a neighbor. Not Amazon. It was her. Linda. Standing there in the soft yellow light, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She had a manila envelope in one hand and a tote bag in the other. "I'm not here to start anything," she said quickly. "Just wanted to return this." She handed me the envelope. Inside were a few old photos, a watch of mine she'd kept, and strangely, a letter. She didn't ask to come in. Didn't beg. Just stood there. "I've started therapy," she said. "I know that doesn't fix anything. But I'm trying." I nodded. "Good." She lingered. Like she wanted more. But I didn't offer it. "Take care of yourself," I said. She gave a sad little nod. "You too." And then she walked away. I stood there for a while. Not sad. Not angry. Just still. That night, I read her letter. It wasn't an apology, not really. More like a confession. I never knew how to sit still in love. I always needed chaos to feel important. "You were stable." I mistook that for boring. I was wrong. She was right. But I wasn't flattered. I was finished. The next weekend, I had dinner with Maya. The casual coffee meetups had turned into phone calls. The long texts. Then, "Hey, want to grab food?" This wasn't a rebound. This wasn't a replacement. This was something else entirely. Easy. Honest. Steady. She didn't ask about Linda unless I brought it up. She didn't flinch when I did. She just listened. And when I laughed too hard at her stories or accidentally brushed her hand and felt that electric jolt of maybe, I didn't panic. I leaned in. Because I wasn't broken anymore. I was ready. Not to dive in. But to explore. 6 months out. Half a year since I signed the papers. Since I took the final step that led me out of that slow-burning wreck of a marriage and into something that actually resembled a life. The house was still mine. The name on the deed hadn't changed. But inside? Everything was different. Walls repainted. Photos replaced. No more empty frames or dusty shelves. Just a clean slate. Me. Peace was no longer this foreign, silent space I had to tiptoe through. It was home. Maya and I never rushed anything. We didn't have to. She knew I'd been through a storm. And she never tried to fix me. She just walked beside me while I fixed myself. One night, after a long dinner and a walk back to my place, I told her the whole story. From the text that ended it all to the letter Linda left behind. She listened. No judgment. No pity. And then she said something that broke me open. You didn't just survive her betrayal. You reinvented yourself because of it. That's power. I kissed her. Soft. Certain. And for the first time in forever. I didn't feel like I was replacing someone. I felt like I was building something real. From scratch. With someone who saw me, not just what I provided. One more email came. From Linda. Again. I heard you're doing well. I saw the podcast interview. You look good. I hope you're happy. This time I didn't delete it. I didn't reply either. I archived it. Because that's where she belongs now. In the past. Filed. Quiet. Closed. To anyone out there who's ever gotten a midnight message that shattered their world. To anyone who's ever watched someone they love morph into a stranger right in front of them. To anyone who thought walking away meant failure. Let me be proof. You can burn it down and still rebuild. You can lose a marriage and still keep your soul. You can get that final text. And still be the one who gets the last word. Because survival isn't about staying quiet. It's about finally raising your voice. And saying, you don't get to rewrite the story. You don't get to decide who I become. You don't get to keep me small. So here's to the ones who walked away. And never turned around. Here is my question. Have you ever had someone try to burn your life down and act like they were doing you a favor? Would you have clapped back with revenge or walked away with your head held high? Drop your answer in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.